It's late April, and spring is no longer a promise. It's here. The trees that were bare a month ago are full now. The bulbs that were underground are blooming. Everything that was dormant is suddenly visible. And I've been noticing something. Spring doesn't feel the way I expected it to. I thought spring would feel light, easy, celebratory, but it doesn't. Spring feels vulnerable, like everything I've been tending in private is suddenly on display. Like growth I wasn't sure was happening is now undeniable. And I'm not sure I'm ready for people to see it yet. But spring doesn't ask if you're ready, spring just arrives, and it asks something of you. Today, I want to talk about what spring asks of us, not in the garden, but in our lives, what this season of visible growth requires, and why it feels so uncomfortable. Here's what I've been noticing about spring: it doesn't wait for you to feel ready. The seed underground doesn't think, am I ready to break through the soil? Do I look good enough? Is this the right time? It just breaks through because that's what spring does. Winter was about the underground work, the tending, the preparation. You couldn't see what was happening. No one could. And that was safe in a way. You could tend without anyone watching. You could grow without anyone judging. But spring makes everything visible. The growth you weren't sure was happening, it's undeniable now. The work you did in winter, it's showing up. The seeds you planted months ago, they're sprouting, and there's no hiding it anymore. And I think that's why spring feels so uncomfortable, not because growth is happening, but because the growth is visible now, and visibility feels vulnerable. What if people see it and it's not impressive enough? What if what's emerging isn't what you hoped it would be? What if you're not ready for people to witness your becoming? But spring doesn't ask permission. Spring just asks you to let the growth show. So, what does spring actually ask of us? Even when you're not sure it's enough, even when it feels too soon, even when you'd rather keep tending in private for a little longer, spring says, it's time. Let it be seen. You can't control what grows from the seeds you planted. You can't make the tulip bloom red when it's going to be yellow. Spring asks you to trust that what's emerging is exactly what needs to emerge, even if it's different than you imagined, even if it surprises you. You can't hold on to winter and step into spring at the same time. Something has to be released. Something has to be composted. Spring asks, what are you still holding that needs to be let go? What winter stories are you carrying into spring? Growth isn't always gentle. Seeds crack open, shoots push through hard soil, buds break. There's a violence to becoming. Spring doesn't apologize for that. It just asks you to keep growing anyway, to let yourself unfold even when it feels too exposed, to let yourself be seen even when you feel unfinished, to trust that becoming is always uncomfortable. And that's okay. I think the reason spring feels so hard is because we've been taught that growth should look a certain way: smooth, linear, impressive, Instagram or social media worthy. But real growth doesn't look like that, right? Real growth is messy, it's awkward, it's uneven. Some things bloom early, some things take longer. Some things you expected to grow don't. And some things you didn't plan at all show up anyway. I planted seeds in March, literally and metaphorically. I started the breathwork certification. I held my first gathering. I began things I wasn't sure I was ready for. And now it's late April, and some of those seeds are sprouting. Some aren't. And the ones that are sprouting don't look how I thought they would. The gathering worked, but not in the way I expected. The work is growing, but it feels more vulnerable than I imagined. I'm becoming something, but I don't know what it is yet. And spring asked me to be okay with that, to let it unfold without needing to control it, to let the growth show even when I don't know where it's going. That's what spring asks. And it's uncomfortable, but I think it's also the work. Here's what I've been noticing in my body. Spring has a different energy than winter. Winter felt like turning inward to me, resting, being still. But spring feels like expansion, like my body wants to move, to stretch, to be outside, like there's energy wanting to move through me. And if I ignore that, if I try to keep living at winter's pace, my body gets restless, agitated, like it's ready for something and I'm not letting it happen. Spring asks you to move, not frantically, not urgently, but to let the energy move through you instead of holding it in. Maybe that's yoga, maybe it's walking, maybe it's dancing in your kitchen, maybe it's just letting yourself take up more space physically, energetically. Winter asked you to contract, to conserve, to go inward. Spring asks the opposite. Spring asks you to expand, to let yourself be seen, to let your energy move outward instead of holding it in. And your body knows the difference. Listen to it. So here's what I'm realizing as we move toward May. Spring asks us to practice this becoming together, to let our growth be visible to each other, to witness each other's unfolding without needing to fix or manage it. Because here's the thing, growing alone is scary. Being visible alone is vulnerable. But growing together, being witnessed by people who are also becoming, that changes everything. That's what May 17th is about. Rise through the roots. We're going to practice spring's work together, letting the growth show, trusting what's emerging, making space for the new. Not perfectly, not social media worthy, just real bodies, real becoming, real presence. Because spring doesn't ask you to grow alone. Spring asks you to grow in community, to let your roots tangle with others, to rise together. Registration is open for people on my email list. If you want to practice spring's work in person, if you want to be witnessed in your becoming, I hope you'll join me. Details are in the description. So here's my invitation for you. Notice what spring is asking of you right now. What growth is becoming visible that you've been trying to hide? What's emerging that you didn't expect? What are you holding from winter that needs to be released? And then ask yourself, can I let the growth show even though I'm not sure it's enough? Can I trust what's emerging even though it surprises me? Can I make space for the new even though it means letting go of the old? Can I grow even when it's uncomfortable? You don't have to have answers. You just have to notice what spring is asking and then let it unfold. Let the becoming happen. Let the growth show. Let yourself be seen in your unfinished becoming. That's what spring asks. And I think that's the bravest work we can do. I'll talk to you next week. And if you're ready to practice this together in May, if you're local, I hope you'll join me.